Now, I try to stay positive about other people's work. After all, when there's so much to do, it's easy to drop the ball. But today, neither I nor my guest, Dev Basu, who's the founder of Powered by Search, could muster the positivity that we normally would. The takeaway here, as you're going to see, is that small changes make huge differences when it comes to one of the biggest opportunities for B2B SaaS companies for search, competitor comparison pages. Are you ready? Let's take a look at Wave versus Freshbooks. Hey Dev, what's up? Back again.
Back again for round two.
Nice one. And today we're looking at Wave's comparison page with Freshbooks. Um, this one, I said to you before we started the call, man, I just looked at it and it almost made me feel sad because there's so many missed opportunities in what is an otherwise okay page. How did you feel about it?
I think it's a feeble attempt at a good competitor comparison page. Before even designing pages, we kind of think of two constructs. One is, there's a difference between clear and compelling. And when you look at this page, it's clear that it is a comparison page. The fact is, it's just not very compelling. So it doesn't drive people to act. Obviously, we don't have analytics on how it's performing. But in the universe of other comparison pages that we've looked at, this one definitely ranks lower. The second is it interesting or is it useful? And in between those two things, if it's a commercial page like this, where people are most product aware, they know what Wave is, they know what FreshBooks is, they're going to choose one of those as part of the peer group that they're evaluating. It does not make sense to make this an interesting page. It needs to be really useful in that decision making of which one do I go with, because if you're going to use an invoicing app, again, they're like you and I have talked about before, there's a switching cost. And you want to go with the thing that's actually going to be making your life easier if you're a freelancer or a services professional or whatever, not one that's going to make life more difficult and you're going to spend forever kind of figuring it out. And so I think this really misses the mark on many of those different points. I'm sure we're going to dive deeper into.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's start, hey, with this hero. So the first thing about this page that I notice is when I had a little blank there at the start of the call where I couldn't remember who the competitor was. And I actually had to scroll down to here to remember that it was FreshBooks. And I think that's telling that if I'm a FreshBooks customer, or if I am a person who's considering FreshBooks, I want to land on this page and I want to know instantly like why I would choose Wave over FreshBooks. That's the whole purpose of the page. But I
Yeah.
actually have to read the small print here, explore this FreshBooks alternative and things, which feels like it's probably written more for search than for searcher intent, um, to actually get the what the page is even about.
Mm-hmm. It's a classic case of burying the lead because they probably have seen some good performance from, essentially a free offer, $0 per month. Unlimited invoicing is a powerful incentive to sign up, but not in the context of comparing it to another leading product. And so, by the headline, this is classic. This is not even internet marketing related, really. That David Ogilvy talked about how important the headline is. That was probably 60 years ago, and it's still as true today. So they've definitely buried the lead over here.
It's totally true, and it's even more. I imagine it important when the attention span is decreasing so rapidly.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing I don't really get about this page is why they're immediately asking me to sign up. Like I don't know anything right now. If they'd been more clear about the kind of the value proposition and the alternative, maybe that would have made sense. But right now, I can't see any reason other than, hey, I just want to sign up for something that I would put my email in there. Um,
Yeah.
and then just scrolling down a little bit, I kind of I think the hierarchy might be wrong on the page. So why Wave makes sense on a landing page that's normal, like a standard landing page. But for this one, this whole section makes way more sense to show if you're going to show anything as the second thing down from the hero. Um, I didn't understand the thing here.
Well, what we've seen is sometimes these design patterns emerge where, if you think about like this is a large company that got acquired recently, Wave that is, and I think Zero owns them now. And so, if you, at least in our experience working with large B2B SaaS clients, what we found is that sometimes these copy blocks effectively become legal approved, and they're just part of like a content asset library where you can just pull them into a landing page. And if you don't know what to do with the landing page, you just go, that sounds about right. Let's put that little content block in there. And so you're spot on about the hierarchy comment. I think there's a fundamental gap in the understanding over here that, you know, you need to compare your product, which is the sole purpose of this page, to another product, and suss out the compare and contrast. The contrast is what creates the reason to act and sign up. This fails to create any contrast, because all it does is it talks about product A without comparing it to product B, and it fails in that aspect until you go, you know, further down the page.
Yeah, let's do that. So we were chatting briefly about the comparison table prior to this call.
Yeah.
It feels like a standard approach, but one that doesn't necessarily actually achieve the goal. Do you think that's fair?
I think it's completely fair, and it's not just for this page, but I think comparison pages in general are with tables. Mm-hmm. So when we talk to marketers or founders, comparison tables are something that, like, you just meant the mention of them tends to rile them up, because this was popularized by the directory comparison sites, like the G2, Capterra, GetApp, etc. They're the ones that actually made this a standard practice, and then SaaS companies started to adopt that standard when they started creating their own alternative in comparison to pages. Now, the problem that most found, if you're on the inside of a company, you look at the comparison table and go, that's inaccurate, that's a lie over there. We have that feature, or that's not our pricing, it's out of date. And so that's the kind of sentiment from the product owner's point of view. From a customer's point of view, the problem is it creates this choice paradox. Because, like, if you look at this over here right now, each of these things, pricing, unlimited, clients, tracks, sales, etc., is given the exact same weighting, visual hierarchy of things. And so the fallacy is from the product owner's perspective or from the marketer's perspective, pretending like each one of these things matters just the same as the other to a customer, when they in fact don't. And so if you go through a positioning exercise, the right way of doing this is to look at what are the true differences and what are the commoditized same, right? And so, for example, if it says unlimited invoices and estimates, well, reality kind of begs the question, like, how many invoices is really unlimited? You know, are you going to send 100, 500, 1,000? We don't send 1,000 invoices per month. We'll never send 1,000 invoices per month. That's not part of our business model. So unlimited actually doesn't make a lot of sense. What does make a lot of sense is, you know, do I have all the features enabled, or am I going to get capped in the trial, for example, on a lot of apps say unlimited, but unlimited to a specific number, but pared down functionality in some other way. So really sussing out the contrastable differences over here and putting that in a table makes sense, even if you add something like an accordion menu to pop out all the things that you do the same. In this case, if you look at this, payroll that fits your team is one of the main, contrasting differences over there. And so what they should have led with is, if you need to run an entire small business where you have employees that do the work that you send invoices for, you're probably going to need payroll. And if you want your payroll system to communicate with your invoicing system, you should use Wave. And that's not something that Freshbooks is ever going to build. It's not part of their roadmap. They haven't done it in 10 years. So why would they start right now? Mm-hmm. So again, that's another example of burying the lead, where they should have said that upfront and highlighted it, rather than, multiple checkboxes that all have the green check mark, where, like, connecting your bank account or managing and paying your bills is the same. Sorry, I'm going on a bit of a rant over here, but that's how I feel about tables.
Man, I'm glad I'm not the only one, because every now and again you look at a landing page and you think, man, I would have done that so differently. And this is one of those, if I'm honest. I almost hate saying it, because I'm just like, people put so much effort into work, but this one just feels like all wrong. So really stood out for me. This is a quote. Firstly, I don't know what PDPD means as an attribution. I have no clue who that is, whether that's a person or whether it's just a placeholder. But these quotes where they're like, this one blows the doors off Freshbooks, I want to say right here, how? Like, why does it blow the doors off Freshbooks? I don't understand. Wave's full of awesome tools. Like what? These are questions that they need to answer. A focus on details, user experience, layout, and color. I, I don't know, man. If someone says color is a benefit of their product, I'm just like, that's not, you haven't done any research about that clearly, unless I've totally misunderstood your customer base. Um, and then the social stuff here about Inc. and Forbes and Bloomberg and CNBC, I've got no clue what that means. Is it that they use it? Is this an invoicing tool for media brands, or is it that you've been mentioned in an article next to FreshBooks in the thing? It doesn't make any sense. And you've actually just as a marketer, you've used a lot of space on a page that someone's going to have to scroll past in order to get to the features that they're probably interested in seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, I felt about just, you mentioned earlier about the kind of the I forget the specifics, but you mentioned about the burying the lead. This section for me is just full of buried leads. So like the features here, accounting, it feels as if, yeah, people want to be able to classify things. So put that as a small label, small text, and then bring this thing out and put it as the heading. Yeah.
There's more to this as well. So if this particular app is meant for a non-financial savvy type of user, right? What they could have done is double entry accounting that your accountant will love, even if you don't know anything about GAAP, with generally accepted accounting principles, right? And so that's obviously wordy, which our preference is to actually be more verbose about, the pros and the cons, right? So we think like the product owner thinks about this in terms of features and benefits. The marketer does as well. The customer really goes about thinking pros, what am I getting that is a plus that's going to make my life easier, minus the cons. The cons are usually it's got a steep learning curve, it's expensive, that kind of thing, right? And so they're thinking, do I need to be an accountant to use this software? Is it, QuickBooks kind of scares me, so I should probably be thinking about Wave or FreshBooks. FreshBooks seems a little bit more user-friendly, but how accounting savvy do I need to be if they're going to talk about an accounting feature? So like talking about the hidden, the subliminal fear that the user basically has as well, and actually calling it out is something I see a lot of SaaS companies shy away from. Our preference is to lean into it and actually call that out and say, yeah, even if you're not this kind of user, this is going to be easy for you to use.
Yeah. That's really valuable insight that I think not enough people appreciate that. I'm now thinking about my own competitor comparison pages that I've created, and I'm thinking, man, I should really apply some of that. Yeah. So the only other thing that I was going to say about these sections here is like, besides feeling like an afterthought, the thing that I think might drive these home as well is some links to some case studies. Mm-hmm. So when did unlimited, secure, reliable bank connections actually benefit the customer? Just give me a short testimonial, even if it's not a link off to a different page. Put someone's face there and say, hey, we used reliable bank connections to, improve revenue recognition or something like that. Yeah. I don't know what it would actually be. Or recurring invoices helped us grow the business when we switched to Wave. Those sorts of things would quickly allow people to latch on to the benefits and as you said, solving their insecurities around the switch.
I think that, yeah, if you put a little bit like a small avatar image with like a one-liner around testimonials, right, that would totally benefit these particular feature pages. Even things like download Wave's free apps and send invoices on the go. Now, I can't think of a time that we've ever had to send an invoice on the go. Now, what kind, and that's perhaps because we're an agency. But if I think about like maybe an architect, a general contractor, somebody who's in their truck to go drive out to, a site or a customer, for example, commits, they perform a job and then they're back in the truck and they're going to send an invoice. It would be helpful to even contextualize the testimonials to the type of user who's going to be using that function the most. And then people can kind of see themselves. People, they use apps when they see people like themselves using the app. And so even contextualizing those testimonials might be useful. One thing around testimonials that I kind of chuckled when you talked about the PD example with the testimonial that really said nothing at all. We use something called a bullseye method. And the bullseye method is effectively, what is the testimonial supposed to sound like so that it really highlights the thing that you're trying to shine a light on this page. And often customer testimonials need to, they essentially need to be massaged a lot. So, what we do when we get our client testimonials or our clients get customer testimonials, we'll say, this is a great first draft. Can we rewrite this so that it's copywritten, send it back to the customer, and then get their approval on whether it sounds better, almost like an editor, basically. And so we don't just accept the first draft of the testimonial, we'll massage it to effectively tell the story truthfully, exactly as it happened, but in a way where the customer actually feels even better about the testimonial because now it's copywritten, and ultimately it performs better on the landing page. So we already know what the bullseye is supposed to say, and then we craft the testimonial around it as we go through that process.
Yeah. That's again another great bit of advice. And it's definitely what we do as well. We've always written case studies entirely and then said, hey, is this accurate to your experience? But we take the data of usage and stuff and just check that we're on the right path. Your bullseye idea, definitely true. Do you want to say anything else about this page?
See how Wave compares to other platforms. If they have done this for the purposes of internal linking, that's probably good. I think that creates some connections, especially if, we might see something like this pop up in the site links. If you were to search Freshbooks versus Freshbooks in the search engine results page, everything you need to run your business confidently. I think that, the footer call to action is fine. But otherwise, like the page is probably like a 4 on 10. There's lots of room for improvement on this one.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Well, this was super interesting. Thanks, Deb.
Awesome.
Always good.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I hope you can see what I mean about trying to keep you cool, but ultimately it's not that hard to rectify these things. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to subscribe. We have a bunch more of these videos coming, a couple with Dev and then more with other people too. I'm really excited about them. And you can just press subscribe in the button below. Also, we share growth resources. Now, I send out a mailer of the best B2B SaaS growth resources each fortnight. So that's every 2 weeks for the people who don't know what a fortnight is. And you can sign up for that at positivehuman.co. positivehuman.co. All right, I'm going to link to it in the description. See you soon.